Pan Am Flight 943 leaves Honolulu, Hawaii with 31 people on board and 44 crates of canaries in the cargo hold. Known as the Sovereign of the Skies, the Boeing 377 Stratocruiser, a long-range post-war airliner, is bound for San Francisco. This is footage of that actual flight filmed by the Coast Guard. Joanne Marzioli is on board.
It was a month before my 3rd birthday. I was with my mother. We were returning to the Bay Area from the Philippines, and my mother was very anxious to get back to California to see my father.
But the reunion would be dramatically delayed. Several hours into the flight, nowhere near land, the plane is climbing to 21,000 feet when one of its 4 engines begins to overspeed, its normal hum now becoming a deafening scream. It's the middle of the night and pitch black over the Pacific.
They had a problem with the propeller, and they created so much drag that they were doing okay with it for a while, and then they ended up having another engine problem that the second engine couldn't sustain the high power. It would be an unbelievable set of circumstances.
2 engines that should be moving the plane forward are now holding it back. It's like driving a car with the emergency brake on. The plane won't make it to San Francisco or back to Hawaii. The pilot, Captain Richard Ogg, quickly determines he has no choice but to ditch in the Pacific.
My mother mentioned that she didn't hear any yelling or screaming. She did hear a lot of praying in different languages. The mood was very, very serious.
The pilot radios a nearby Coast Guard cutter for assistance, and a plan is formed. The Stratocruiser will circle above the ship for the rest of the night, lightening its fuel load and waiting for daybreak.
You want to be as light as you can because with less weight you can go slower and fly it more slowly, so the impact with the water is going to be lessened. But also you want to do it with daylight because it improves your depth perception. You're going to be able to put the airplane into the water with a better judgment of exactly how high above the water you are. And that's going to increase the likelihood of having survivors.
Despite a well-thought-out plan, it is an incredibly dangerous situation. And just like the pilots in our other stories, Captain Ogg is remarkably calm, even managing to provide some comic relief, suggesting passengers light their cigarettes and relax.
I mean, here he is. He's in a situation where he's going to have to ditch the plane, and yet he's able to joke like that. He seems to me to be very calm and have his sensibilities about him, which, if you have to have a pilot who's going to ditch a plane, you'd want a pilot who has his senses about him.
The plane remains aloft for nearly 5 hours, operating on 2 of its 4 engines. By morning, conditions are more conducive to ditching. The water is calm. It's a warm 74 degrees. A Coast Guard camera records the scene from below as flight attendants prepare the passengers above, telling them to remove their shoes, tighten their seatbelts, put out their cigarettes, and put on their life vests. The pilot has the crew move all passengers to seats in the front of the cabin.
He was probably worried that the tail would break off, and if that was the case, then he wanted to make sure we were all safe in the front of the plane.
There's a 10-minute warning, a 1-minute warning, and then 3 simple words from the pilot. This is it. The plane splashes down at a speed of 103 miles per hour. The impact is brutal. The plane whips around, its tail snapping off, just as the captain had predicted. But neither the film nor the graphic animation can fully express what the people who were on that plane experienced at that moment.
When it hit the water, it jarred me apart from my mother, and I slid from under her legs and just slid under the chair. So that was very scary for my mother. I think that was the one time where she did let out a sound, where she did probably scream, "Where's my child?"
The Coast Guard crew is convinced no one could have survived this. But then, movement. Within seconds, the front doors are thrown open and life rafts thrown out. In the midst of chaos, Joanne is handed off to a Coast Guardsman and then reunited with her mother. Another moment caught on camera.
When I saw myself being lifted up out of the life raft by one of the Coast Guards, I could picture them just smiling and just being really loving. And then seeing myself on the video put my arm around one of the Coast Guards, when I saw my mother looking at me and I reached out for her, to see my mother on the video and to see that stressed look, I gotta say that just really made me think about what happened and what she had to go through.
Captain Ogg is the last person off the plane, which sinks 21 minutes after hitting the water. The only casualties, the 3,300 canaries in the cargo hold. Miraculously, all 31 people on board survive.
I feel like it's such a miracle. All of us that survived now have lives, and we're able to create lives.